Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. I stood at the altar, adjusting my tie for the third time, feeling the weight of every pair of eyes in the room. Cindy walked down the aisle like she owned the place, confident, radiant, every step calculated but smooth enough to pass for effortless. Her dress was simple but perfect, the kind that made you forget everyone else existed. We'd met just under 2 years ago at a fundraiser my company sponsored. She was sharp, a little sarcastic, and didn't blink at the way I moved through the room like I owned it. I liked that. She wasn't impressed, not immediately anyway. Made me work for it. Now here we were. My best man, my longtime friend Jason, leaned in and muttered, "You pulled off a miracle, Russell." I smirked, kept my eyes on Cindy. "Just don't jinx it." He chuckled, clapping me on the back hard enough to make the front row grin. The ceremony felt quick. Vows, rings, the kiss. The kind of moments you're supposed to remember forever but blur into one big adrenaline rush. At the reception, Cindy worked the crowd like a pro. She laughed at all the right jokes, danced with my nieces, knew exactly when to squeeze my hand when someone said something awkward. I remember thinking, this is it. This is the woman you build an empire with. Late that night, we stumbled into the condo I'd bought 6 months before we got engaged. She kicked off her shoes, spun around once, and collapsed onto the couch, laughing. I walked over, pulled her to her feet. "Come on, Mrs. Hayes, let's start this right." But she stiffened, pulled away lightly, and said, "Not tonight, Russell. I'm exhausted. You get it, right?" I paused, smiled, nodded. Of course, it had been a long day. I wasn't some caveman. "Get some rest," I said, kissing her forehead. I told myself it was nothing. Weddings are a marathon. She'd come around. I didn't know it then, but that night wasn't just a bad start. It was the first crack in something I thought was unbreakable. The first week, I gave her space. Figured we'd get back to normal once the dust settled. We were busy. Thank you cards, family calls, work catching up. But the nights stayed cold. I'd lean in, touch her shoulder, her waist. Always the same. She'd tense up, roll away, mumble something about being tired or stressed. "My body, my choice," she'd say if I pushed too hard. Said it like a reflex, a line rehearsed in advance. I didn't argue. I wasn't going to guilt her into anything. Still, it ate at me. I tried talking to her one night over dinner. "You good, Cindy?" She didn't look up from her plate. "I'm fine." "You sure? You've seemed distant." She finally glanced up, her eyes blank. "Marriage is an adjustment, Russell. You can't expect it to be perfect out the gate." I nodded, pretending that made sense. But the voice in my head was getting louder. It wasn't just the distance in bed. It was the constant texting, the late-night calls she took in the other room. When I asked who it was, she'd say, "Work stuff," and change the subject. Cindy had a small marketing job when we met. Nothing crazy. And somehow, now she was too busy to talk half the time. Then came the questions, about money, about my company. "How much did you say the expansion cost again?" she asked one night, twirling spaghetti around her fork without meeting my eye. "Why?" "Just curious," she said with a shrug. I didn't think much of it at first. A wife should know about the finances, right? But there was a way she asked, like she was inventorying a store she didn't plan to own for long. Jason stopped by one afternoon, dropping off a set of golf clubs I'd left at his place. He stayed for a beer. "How's married life?" he asked, smirking. "Good," I lied. He raised an eyebrow but didn't push. When Cindy walked through the door, Jason watched her just a second too long, and she flashed him a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I didn't know why it bothered me so much then. It was a Tuesday night when I finally cracked. I woke up to the faint hum of voices. Not the TV, not a podcast. Cindy's voice, low and sharp, coming from the guest bathroom down the hall. I slid out of bed quietly, my heart thudding like a drum. Pressed my ear to the door. "I'm working on it," she whispered. "He has no clue. Just be patient." Silence. Then a soft laugh. Not her usual laugh, the one she gave strangers when she was being polite. This was different. I stepped back before she opened the door. She nearly bumped into me. Her eyes went wide for a second. Then she masked it fast. "What are you doing up?" she asked. "Couldn't sleep." "Who were you talking to?" She hesitated, just for a second. "Work. You know how it is." She brushed past me before I could press. I stood there, fists clenched at my sides, watching her walk back to the bedroom like she hadn't just punched a hole through my chest. I knew something was wrong. Later that night, when she fell asleep, I checked her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but I had to know. I scrolled through the recent calls. Jason, over and over again, late at night, when she thought I wouldn't notice. I didn't say anything right away. I needed more. I needed certainty. That Friday, Cindy said she was meeting an old friend from college for drinks. She dressed nicer than usual, tight black dress, heels that clicked sharp against the hardwood. I waited 2 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys. I tailed her downtown, keeping a few cars back. She didn't pull into a bar. She turned into a small parking lot behind a closed coffee shop. And there he was, Jason. She got out. He got out. They met halfway and kissed. Not a peck. Not a drunken mistake. Like two people who'd been doing it for a while and didn't care who saw. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I watched from the dark, gripping the steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. Something inside me shifted that night. Something hard and cold and permanent. I drove home in silence, every street lamp flashing by like a hammer to the gut. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to storm in and start shouting. That's what they'd expect. Lose control. Look like the crazy one. No, I was going to take my time. Make it count. The next morning, I acted normal. Made coffee. Kissed Cindy on the cheek. Asked how her girls' night went. She smiled, all sweet and casual. Good. Caught up on old times. I smiled back. You deserve it, I said. While she was in the shower, I went through her purse. Fast, clean. Found a second phone. Prepaid. Hidden at the bottom. I didn't open it. Didn't need to. I took pictures of it sitting in her bag, time-stamped them, emailed them to myself. Then I called a private investigator, someone my buddy Robert had used during a bad business deal. Over the next 2 weeks, he delivered everything I needed. Photos of Cindy meeting Jason at motels, bank records showing small, suspicious withdrawals, even a few messages pulled from her backup cloud, ones where she talked about wrapping this up and moving on. Meanwhile, at work, Jason played it cool. He stopped by my office one afternoon, leaned against the doorframe. "You free for poker night this weekend?" he asked. I looked up at him, the man I'd once trusted with keys to my house. "I can't," I said easily. "I got plans with Cindy." He grinned. Thought he was winning. I wasn't just gathering proof. I was setting the board. Cindy kept acting normal, like we were the perfect couple. She'd still ask about money, though. "You ever think about selling the company?" she asked one night while we were watching TV. "Maybe in a few years," I said. "Once we've built it a little bigger?" She nodded, half listening, texting someone under a blanket. Probably Jason. Probably planning my future for me. That was fine. They thought they had time. They thought they were smart. They didn't know I was 5 moves ahead. By the third week, I had everything I needed. Photos, bank records, message logs, a nice little folder, thick enough to shut down any lie they could dream up. One Friday afternoon, I left work early and met with my lawyer, Angela. She was sharp, blunt, no nonsense, exactly what I needed. I slid the folder across her desk. She flipped through it fast, her mouth tightening into a thin line. "Russell, this isn't just cheating," she said. "It's fraud. She's setting you up for a financial hit." "I figured," I said. "I'll draft the papers. You'll want to move fast. No warning." I nodded. No arguments. That night, Cindy came home around 10, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, smiling like she hadn't just spent the evening gutting what little was left of our marriage. I handed her a glass of wine, kissed her cheek. "How was your night?" "Good," she said, taking a long sip. "Just girl stuff." She curled up on the couch, texting under a blanket again, probably telling Jason how stupid I was, how easy it was. I sat across the room watching her, not angry, not even hurt anymore, just done. The next morning, Angela served her the divorce papers, right in our kitchen while she was eating yogurt and scrolling through her phone. Cindy blinked at the envelope like it was a grenade. "What's this?" "Divorce," I said calmly, sipping my coffee. "On grounds of fraud and infidelity." She laughed. Actually laughed like it was some bad sitcom. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious." I stood, dropped my keys into my pocket. "Oh, and just so you know, you're not getting a cent. Prenup's ironclad, and I've got more proof than you can talk your way out of." Her face twisted into something ugly then. All the sweetness peeled back. "You'll regret this, Russell," she snapped. "Already regretted marrying you," I said, and walked out the door. I didn't see her throw the wine glass against the wall, but I heard it shatter. Cindy didn't go quietly. Of course she didn't. 3 days after getting served, she went online, splattering her version of the story across social media. "Trapped in a loveless marriage," she wrote. "Controlled, isolated, emotionally abused. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months started texting. 'Bro, what's going on? You okay?' I ignored most of them. The ones who mattered knew better. And the ones who didn't? They weren't worth keeping around. Jason tried to keep his head low, but it didn't take long for the PI to dig up enough to make him sweat. Turns out he and Cindy had been sneaking around for months, not just physically, but financially. There was a plan. Bleed me dry, sell my company from under me, cash out, and ride off together. One afternoon, Jason had the guts, or the stupidity, to show up at my office. He didn't even knock, just barged in while I was reviewing blueprints. "Russell, man, come on," he started. "Let's just talk." I set the plans down slowly. "You want to talk," I said, voice even. "Talk to Angela. You'll be hearing from her soon." He paled a little. "You don't have to blow this up," he said, palms up. "It wasn't personal." I laughed, low and sharp. "You slept with my wife and tried to gut my business. But sure, not personal." He shifted, looking like a man who realized too late that he was already standing on a trapdoor. "I was desperate," he muttered. "I needed out. Cindy had ideas." "Cindy had you by the balls," I said. "You made your choices. Now live with them." Security escorted him out 5 minutes later. Not because I was scared, because I was done wasting oxygen on him. Meanwhile, Cindy's smear campaign backfired fast. Angela released a quiet statement. Not flashy, not dramatic, just the facts. Screenshots, financial records, the truth. The internet, being what it is, turned on Cindy fast. One day she was the poor trapped wife. The next, she was a joke, a meme, another scandal nobody cared about past lunchtime. And me? I went to work like nothing happened, built contracts, signed deals, stayed steady. Cindy and Jason tried to burn my life down. All they did was burn themselves. Cindy didn't give up easily. Text after text, call after call, each one a little more desperate than the last. The final one was short. "You ruined everything. Hope you're happy." I didn't reply. There wasn't anything left to say. As for Jason, word got around he tried starting a construction business of his own. It folded in under 3 months. Burned bridges make for lousy foundations. Meanwhile, I kept building. New projects, new hires. Angela tightened up all the legal side of the business. I promoted my site foreman, Eddie, to operations manager. I'd lost a wife, a best friend, half my old circle. But I still had my name, my company, my future, and nobody owned a piece of me they didn't earn. A month later, I drove out past the city limits. No real destination, just needed to breathe something other than drywall dust and courtroom air for a while. I ended up at an old overlook, the kind of place teenagers used to sneak beers and promises they wouldn't keep. I parked the truck, stepped out into the cooling night. Below me, the city sprawled out, lights blinking in the dark like a living thing. Somewhere down there, Cindy was probably still spinning stories. Jason was probably still blaming everybody but himself. It didn't matter. None of it touched me anymore. I thought back to standing at that altar, tie choking my neck, thinking Cindy was the prize at the end of the race, thinking loyalty would be enough, that love couldn't rot. I smiled, not bitter, not sad, just older, wiser. Some things break because they were built wrong from the start. No shame in admitting it. The shame would have been staying blind when the cracks showed. I'd ripped the blinders off, took the hit, got back up. Now the future was mine again. Clean, raw, a little scarred maybe, but mine. As I leaned against the hood of the truck, my phone buzzed. A text. It was from Rachel, a project coordinator who'd transferred to my firm a few months back. Straightforward woman. No games, no fake smiles. "Drinks after work Friday? Just us?" I stared at the screen for a long minute. Then I smiled, tucked the phone back into my pocket. Not because I needed someone to fix me, not because I needed to fill a gap Cindy left, because this time I was building something on my own terms. From the first brick to the last nail, I took one last look at the city, then climbed into the truck and pulled away. Not running from anything, just moving forward, exactly the way it should be. Thank you for watching.